Welcome to the Explainer. I am so pumped to get into this data with you today because we're basically going to peel back the curtain on a topic that stresses almost everyone out, yet nobody talks about it honestly. I'm talking about money. Specifically, we're going to break down what average finances actually look like in America right now. And trust me, it is eye-opening. So let's just get right into it. Have you ever been lying awake at night just wondering if you're doing better or worse financially than everyone else your age? You're scrolling through social media, seeing people post about their latest luxury vacation or a brand new car, and you genuinely can't help but wonder, how do they afford the whole shebang? Are they secretly rolling in cash or are they secretly drowning in debt? We all kind of mentally benchmark our own bank accounts against these flashy assumptions of what normal is supposed to look like. All right, let's start with the baseline, what folks are actually pulling in. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the median weekly earnings for a full-time worker hit right around $1,000. So, that's roughly $52,000 a year before taxes. But the stark reality is that $52,000 is just your gross income. Once Uncle Sam takes his slice for federal taxes, state taxes, Social Security, and Medicare, your actual take-home pay shrinks down to somewhere between $35,000 and $40,000. Suddenly, that average income doesn't feel quite as hefty, does it? So where is all that hard-earned take-home pay actually vanishing to? Well, the average American household spends about $5,577 every single month. Listen to this breakdown. Housing costs an average of $1,885, and transportation eats up another $913. Those two categories alone are devouring nearly 50% of the entire monthly budget. By the time you factor in almost $700 just to keep everyone fed, there's literally almost zero wiggle room left over for actually getting ahead. Which leads us directly to a massive shock drop. $9,000. That is the staggering amount of credit card debt the average household is carrying around right now. And remember, we aren't talking about a mortgage or a car loan where you're at least buying an asset that holds some value. No, this is $9,000 spent on clothes, dinners out, online shopping sprees, and impulse buys that are probably just sitting in a closet gathering dust right now. And here's where the math gets genuinely toxic. If you're sitting on a $9,000 balance at typical credit card interest rates, which, let's be real, easily hit 15, 20, or even 25% these days, you are throwing away $1,800 every single year just in interest payments alone. That is money that absolutely could have been used to build your own wealth, but instead, you're just handing it over to make the credit card companies even richer. So all of this spending and borrowing culminates in the ultimate, undisputed scorecard of your true financial health, your net worth. Simply put, net worth is what you own minus what you owe. You tally up the value of your house, your bank accounts, and your investments, and then you subtract your mortgage, your student loans, and of course, that toxic credit card debt we just talked about. Whatever number is left over at the end of that equation is your net worth. Think about where you fall in these age brackets for a second to see exactly where you stand compared to the median American. If you're under 35, the median net worth is less than $14,000. If you are 35 to 44, it climbs to $91,000. And for the 45 to 54 crowd, it sits around $168,000. If you're mentally calculating your number right now and realizing it's a lot lower, consider this a serious financial reality check. Now, a huge reason why those net worth numbers are lagging so far behind is perfectly captured by one single, honestly alarming stat: 6%. That is the remarkably low average savings rate of Americans after taxes. Think about it. If you're only stashing away 6% of your income, and some of that has to cover short-term goals like buying a car or fixing a leaky roof, how much money is actually making it into your long-term wealth building? The answer is nowhere near enough. Which leads us to the grand finale of personal finance. I want you to play along here for a second. When do you think most people actually stop working? Take a guess. If you're like almost everyone else, you probably guessed age 65, right? Because that's the traditional finish line we've all been completely conditioned to aim for. Well, actually, scratch that. It's 61. The true average retirement age in America is 61. Now, at first glance, that might sound like an absolute dream scenario. Who wouldn't want to clock out at 61 and spend their golden years traveling or just doing whatever they want? But as we're about to see, there is a glaring, massive logistical problem with hanging it up at age 61. The catch is this terrifying 6-year gap between that average retirement age of 61 and the age of 67, which is when most people can actually start collecting their full Social Security benefits. That means if you retire at 61, you have to completely fund your life out of your own pocket for 6 full years before that government safety net truly kicks in. And how exactly are people covering those gap years? Well, they kind of aren't. Here is another incredibly hard pill to swallow. 1 in 4 Americans, 25% of the population, have absolutely $0 saved in a retirement account. Literally nothing. That means 1 out of every 4 people you meet is planning to rely entirely on Social Security the very day they stop working. And even for the folks who do have savings, the picture is pretty grim. The median retirement savings balances tell quite a story. The 25 to 34 age group has a median balance of just $14,000. But the real wake-up call is the 65 and older bracket. After nearly 4 decades in the workforce, commuting, dealing with bosses, grinding it out for a paycheck, the median retirement balance peaks at just $88,000. Let's put that 88 grand into real-world perspective. If you follow the traditional 4% withdrawal rule for retirement, which is the generally accepted safe amount you can pull out each year without running dry, stepping away from work with $88,000 gives you less than $300 a month to live on. Think about that for just a second. Could you survive on $300 a month? No way. That wouldn't even cover basic groceries, let alone your utilities, property taxes, or healthcare. Now, you might be wondering, okay, but what about Social Security? Well, heavily relying on it isn't much of a safety net at all. The average Social Security benefit pays out only about $1,550 a month, which works out to roughly $18,600 a year. Even if you somehow have your house completely paid off, $1,550 a month is barely enough money to just keep the lights on and the fridge stocked. And this is where the math gets genuinely scary. The Social Security Administration says life expectancy after 65 is another 19 to 21 years. So if you retire at 61, you are potentially looking at funding 25 or more years of your life on those dangerously low median savings we just went over. 25 years. That's longer than many people's entire careers. Stretching $88,000 across a quarter of a century is just a total recipe for disaster. Okay, let's take a collective deep breath here, because I want to shift the tone completely. We've looked at the terrifying reality of the average person, but the blueprint to beat these statistics is exactly why I put this explainer together for you. It turns out the bar to beat these averages is actually surprisingly low. How do you win? Step 1. Just save more than 6% of your income. Step 2, avoid carrying toxic credit card debt. Step 3, invest consistently. Honestly, that is the magic formula. So here's your actual wealth playbook. Doing better than average does not require a 6-figure salary, and you definitely don't need a trust fund from a rich relative. You just need basic financial intentionality. If you can figure out how to live on slightly less, say just freeing up $1,000 a month, pay off those credit cards in full every month so you dodge that 20% interest trap, and consistently invest in low-cost index funds, which are basically just baskets of stocks that track the whole market, the compound effect over a few decades is an absolute game changer. So, I want to leave you with this final provocative thought. Do you want to be normal or do you want to be better? Because frankly, being normal means carrying $9,000 in credit card debt, saving a measly 6%, and staring down a 25-year retirement funded by just $300 a month. I challenge you to use this explainer not as a reason to panic, but as your personal launchpad. Once you see the average illusion for what it truly is, building real, lasting financial independence becomes entirely within your reach. The choice is yours.